The sad truth is that most people don't get used because they're too nice. They get used because they accidentally teach people that their kindness has no limits. And once people learn that lesson, everything changes. They stop appreciating your help. They stop respecting your time. They stop valuing your effort. And the worst part, most nice people don't even realize they're causing the problem themselves. If you've ever felt taken for granted, overlooked, or constantly used by others, this video might explain exactly why. And more importantly, how to stop it. Think about the nicest person you know. The person who is always there, always helping, always giving, always sacrificing. They're usually the one carrying the heaviest burden. They're the one everyone calls when they need something. They're the one everyone depends on. They're the one who stays late when everyone else leaves. They're the one who puts other people's needs before their own. And somehow, despite all that effort, they're often the least appreciated person in the room. Maybe that's you. Maybe you've spent years trying to be a good person, trying to be kind, trying to be helpful, trying to make life easier for everyone around you. And yet people still take advantage of you. They ask for more, expect more, demand more. And no matter how much you give, it never seems to be enough. Why? Because the problem isn't kindness. The problem is that most people never learn the difference between kindness and weakness. And the world responds to those two things very differently. Let's start with the first mistake. Nice people say yes too often, not because they want to, because they're afraid. Afraid of disappointing people, afraid of conflict, afraid of being seen as selfish. So every time someone asks for a favor, they say yes. Every time someone needs help, they say yes. Every time someone crosses a line, they stay silent. Think about your own life. Maybe it's the coworker who keeps asking you to do part of their job. Maybe it's the friend who only calls when they need a favor. Maybe it's the family member who expects you to drop everything whenever they need help. At first, it feels harmless. You help because you're kind. But over time, something changes. What started as appreciation slowly becomes expectation. And expectation is where respect starts to disappear. At first, people appreciate it. But something strange happens over time. People stop seeing your help as a gift. They start seeing it as your job, your responsibility, your obligation. The first time you help someone move houses, they're grateful. The 10th time, they expect it. The 20th time, they're annoyed if you're busy. Nothing changed about your kindness, but everything changed about their expectations. This is how nice people accidentally train others to take them for granted. Not because people are evil, because people adapt. Human beings naturally adjust to what becomes normal. If you're always available, your availability stops being special. If you're always giving, your generosity stops being valuable. The more predictable your sacrifice becomes, the less people appreciate it. That's why some of the most generous people end up feeling invisible. The second mistake is even more dangerous. Nice people believe being liked is the same thing as being respected. It's not. These are two completely different things. Someone can like you and still use you. Someone can enjoy being around you and still disrespect your boundaries. Someone can smile in your face and still take advantage of your kindness. Respect is different. Respect comes from knowing where the line is. Respect comes from consequences. Respect comes from boundaries. Think about the people you respect most. Do you respect them because they say yes to everything? Probably not. You respect them because they stand for something, because they know what they will tolerate and what they won't, because they don't abandon themselves just to make other people comfortable. But nice people often do exactly that. They sacrifice their own needs, their own time, their own priorities, just to keep everyone happy. And eventually they wake up one day wondering why nobody seems to value them. The answer is simple. You cannot teach people to value you while constantly showing them that you don't value yourself. That's the hard truth. Every time you say yes, when you desperately want to say no, you send a message. Every time you apologize for having boundaries, you send a message. Every time you tolerate disrespect just to avoid conflict, you send a message. And the message says, my needs come second. People hear that message loud and clear. Then they act accordingly. Now let's talk about manipulators. Because manipulators have a special talent. They can spot people pleasers almost instantly. They look for people who hate saying no. People who constantly explain themselves. People who feel guilty for having needs. People who want everyone to like them. And when they find those people, they know exactly what to do. They apply pressure, a little guilt, a little disappointment, a little emotional manipulation. And it works. Not because manipulators are geniuses, because people pleasers are predictable. They always choose approval over self-respect, and manipulators know it. That's why some people seem to attract toxic relationships over and over again. It's not bad luck, it's a lack of boundaries. When people learn they can get unlimited access to your time, energy, attention, and kindness, they rarely choose less. They choose more, and more, and more, until you're exhausted, burned out, frustrated, wondering why nobody appreciates everything you've done. But here's the thing, people don't appreciate what costs them nothing. And if your kindness is available at all times, with no boundaries, no standards, and no limits, it starts to lose value. Not because kindness isn't valuable, because scarcity creates value. That's true in business. It's true in relationships. And it's true in life. The people who respect themselves understand this. They don't give less. They simply give differently. They give by choice, not by pressure. They help because they want to, not because they're afraid of what will happen if they don't. And that difference changes everything. Here's another mistake nice people make. They explain themselves too much. Someone asks why they can't help. They explain. Someone questions a decision. They explain. Someone disagrees with them. They explain. Someone gets upset. They explain even more. It's almost like they're standing in a courtroom, constantly defending their right to exist. But confident people don't live that way. Confident people understand something most people never learn. You don't need permission to make choices for your own life. You don't need approval to protect your time. You don't need validation to have boundaries. Imagine two people saying exactly the same thing. The first person says, "Sorry, I can't make it because I've been really busy and I haven't had enough sleep. And I have a lot going on right now, and maybe next time." The second person says, "I can't make it. Maybe another time." Who sounds more confident? Who sounds more respected? Who sounds like they value their own time? The answer is obvious. The more you explain, the more you signal uncertainty. The more uncertain you sound, the less people respect your decisions. That's why one of the most powerful skills you can develop is learning to say no without guilt. Not aggressively, not rudely, calmly, directly, confidently, no long speech, no apology, no negotiation, just a clear answer. And here's what will happen when you start doing that. Some people will get upset. Some people will become frustrated. Some people will accuse you of changing. They're right. You are changing. You're becoming someone who respects themselves. And the people who benefited from your lack of boundaries won't like that. Because every relationship creates a pattern. When you change the pattern, people react. If someone is used to unlimited access to your time, they'll notice when access becomes limited. If someone is used to getting whatever they want from you, they'll notice when you start saying no. And their reaction tells you something important. It reveals why they were in your life in the first place. The people who genuinely care about you will adjust. The people who only cared about what you could do for them will resist. That's why boundaries are such a powerful filter. They reveal who respects you and who merely uses you. Now let's talk about one of the biggest fears nice people have. The fear of being disliked. This fear controls millions of people. It controls their decisions, their relationships, their careers, their entire lives. They spend years trying to avoid criticism, trying to avoid conflict, trying to make everyone happy. But here's the reality. No matter how kind you are, someone will dislike you. No matter how helpful you are, someone will criticize you. No matter how much you give, someone will want more. You cannot win that game because the rules are impossible. The goal isn't to make everyone happy. The goal is to stay true to yourself. Strong people understand this. Weak people spend their lives chasing approval. And the sad part is that approval is never permanent. The same people praising you today might criticize you tomorrow. The same people who love you when you're useful might disappear when you set a boundary. That's why self-respect must come before approval. Because self-respect stays. Approval comes and goes. Let's make something very clear. Being kind is not the problem. The world needs kind people. The world needs generous people. The world needs compassionate people. But kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Generosity without limits becomes exploitation. Compassion without standards becomes manipulation. You cannot pour endlessly from an empty cup. Eventually, you run out. And when that happens, everyone suffers, including you. That's why the strongest people aren't selfish. They're sustainable. They understand their energy is valuable. Their time is valuable. Their attention is valuable. And because they value those things, other people value them too. This is the lesson most nice people never learn. Your value increases when you stop giving it away for free. Not because you become cold, not because you become selfish, because you finally recognize your own worth. And once you recognize your worth, everything changes. You stop chasing people. You stop begging for approval. You stop trying to earn love through sacrifice. You stop believing that suffering is proof of kindness. And you start building relationships based on mutual respect instead of obligation. Look at the people you respect most. Chances are they're not the people who say yes to everything. They're not the people who constantly seek approval. They're not the people who sacrifice themselves for everyone around them. They're the people who know their value. The people who can say no without guilt. The people who help because they choose to, not because they're afraid. That's why people respect them. Not because they're tougher, because they're clear. That's where real confidence comes from. Not from being loved by everyone, not from being praised by everyone, but from knowing that you can survive someone else's disappointment. Think about how powerful that is. The moment you're no longer afraid of disappointing people, they lose the ability to control you. The moment you're willing to hear no, you're free to say no. The moment you stop needing everyone to like you, you become impossible to manipulate. That's the freedom nice people are missing. Not freedom from others, freedom from the need for approval. Before we finish, I want you to remember one thing. You do not owe everyone your time. You do not owe everyone your energy. You do not owe everyone unlimited access to your life. You can be kind and still say no. You can be generous and still have boundaries. You can be compassionate and still protect your peace. In fact, the healthiest people do exactly that. So here's your challenge. This week, say no to one thing you would normally say yes to. Just one thing. Pay attention to how people react. Some will respect it. Some will understand. Some will get angry. And those reactions will teach you more about your relationships than years of guessing ever could. If this video helped you see the difference between kindness and weakness, hit subscribe and join us for more lessons on confidence, self-respect, discipline, and personal growth. And remember this, being kind is powerful. Being weak is expensive. Learn the difference, because the day you stop living for approval is the day people start respecting you. And more importantly, it's the day you start respecting yourself.